Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to Olainfarm second quarter 2019 investor conference webinar. Today we are hosted by the Chairman of Management Board of Olainfarm, Mr. Lauris Macijevskis, and Investor Relations Advisor, Mr. Janis Dubrovskis. We will start the webinar with company's presentation, after which we will hold a questions and answers session. We have already received several questions in advance. We will take them one by one in the order they were received. Please note that we have a time limit of 1 hour for this webinar. We will take as many questions as we can within this 1 hour. Therefore, if you do have any questions to Olainfarm yourself, please don't hesitate and type them in the questions box in the webinar admin panel. I would now like to turn the conference over to the gentleman who will proceed with the presentation.
Eva, thank you for introduction. Dear ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to be here today to present the latest results and news from Olainfarm. Today we'll cover a number of topics. We'll start with financial results review for the second quarter and the first half of the year. Then we'll go through a number of recent news and we'll finish the webinar with the Q&A session. Sales in the second quarter reached 31.7 million euros, which is an increase by 2% year-on-year. This is the second highest result for the second quarter sales and the sixth highest quarter result ever. Our main subsidiaries contributed 9.3 million euros in total, most of the contribution coming from a pharmacy chain Latvijas Apteeka. Sales in the first half of the year were likewise growing. We have achieved a new milestone in our corporate history, 66.4 million euros in revenues, which is 7% more than a year ago. It is noteworthy to mention that after last year's decline, we can deliver great top-line results again. As you might be aware, we have changed definition of earnings before interest, tax, depreciation and amortization last quarter. Please refer to our quarterly financial statements for more information. EBITDA grew by 64% to 17 million euros in the first half of this year. Trailing 12 months earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization set another record and was 26.8 million euros. At the same time, EBITDA margin was 20.8%, which is a great achievement year over year by more than 6 percentage points. Now we have drilled down to the bottom line. Net profit during the second quarter this year was 4 million euros, which is by 49% more than last year. It is the second highest second quarter net profit over the past 9 years. We already had a fantastic first quarter this year, and by adding the result of the second quarter, we have a record level of net profit for the first half of this year. Let's have a closer look at how we have achieved such a high level of net profit. Gross profit increase had the largest impact of over 4.1 million euros. Then we had reduction in marketing expenses by 1.1 million euros. Later we'll have a separate slide with some with issues related to marketing. Administrative expenses grew by 2.2 million euros. Majority of administrative expenses are salaries and related taxes. The increase of administrative costs is due to review of salaries as well as rapid increase in R&D costs that we do not capitalize. And net profit also had strong boost by favorable Russian ruble exchange rate, as the ruble continued to appreciate also in the second quarter, although not as much as at the beginning of this year. Last year, during the first half of the year, we had forex losses of about 877,000 euros versus profit of 1.8 million euros this year. Before we continue with our main markets and products, we would like to ask you to take your time to reply to the first poll question. Okay, thank you very much for taking your time replying to our question. So I see that most of you expressed positive attitude toward to our question, and that the results exceeded the expectations. Well, then again, it's hard to keep up the expectations also during the next quarters. Okay, so let's continue with the sales by country. So in general, during the first half of this year, geography of sales remained quite the same. Our top 4 markets make up of 77% of total revenues. From notable changes, the Netherlands are now the 5th largest market due to a renewed contract with the United Nations. Sales in 7 out of 10 countries are growing with various success. In absolute terms, our home market in Latvia added 2.2 million euros. The Netherlands was the second with 1.6 million euro addition, and Russia with 0.7 million. In relative terms, Tajikistan and Uzbekistan also show great results. Norfen remains the best-selling product. There are some minor variations in shares of the top 10 products, but overall the picture remains intact. PAS Sodium is our anti-tuberculosis product, which was sales dependent on one key buyer, the United Nations. In April, we negotiated a new agreement worth 3 million euros. The product will be delivered this and the next year. Therefore, we can expect to see PAS Sodium among top 10 products also in the future. Olainfarm's main products deliver substantial growth. The leaders in absolute terms are PAS, Norfen, and Adaptol. In relative terms, growth is also provided by Remantadine and Furagine. And now it's time for the second poll question. Thank you very much for taking your time. So I can see that most of you do not use our webpage for information. Well, we keep balanced flow information to our webpage and to Nasdaq information system. But from time to time, we also update information on products and other key aspects of the company also on the webpage. Therefore, I encourage you to, from time to time, have a look at our webpage as well. So with this, we conclude our first part of the webinar, and we continue with the news that kept us busy during the summer months. So regarding the borrowings, historically, we had a loan from a BLV bank to finance acquisition of Tonus Elasti in 2016. The loan had a repayment date in March this year. The newly elected management board agreed with the bank to prolong the loan till March 2020. As the loan had substantial amount structured as a bullet payment on the last date, sooner or later it had to be refinanced. And in August this year, we signed a new loan agreement with the Latvian bank Blue Orange, which not only allows us to repay the original ABLV loan on better terms, but also provides new financing for capital expenditures. We have also introduced alternative performance indicators to better track our indebtedness and ability to repay borrowings. Net debt EBITDA shows how many years it would take to repay all outstanding loans. Debt service coverage ratio shows efficiency of operating profit to cover contractual debt payments. Definitions for both indicators are disclosed in the last interim report. Currently, both ratios are well below level set by our partner banks. We have received requests to clarify top management salaries. In the table presented on the slide, we show total payments to all supervisory council and management board members. During the last 2 years, we had 3 supervisory council elections, which changed the top limit for remuneration. As you can see, the largest relative increase was in the third quarter last year, and in absolute terms was in the fourth quarter last year. After the most recent supervisory council elections, total compensation for the council and the management board declined by 100,000 euros, or 14%. As part of the ongoing review of the company's operations, we have identified a number of luxury cars that are no longer necessary for performance of the company. We have a fully transparent sales process. If you're looking for a car, we might have something for you. If interested, please drop us a line. So now it's time for the last poll question. Thank you very much for answering the question. I see that majority of you replied no negatively to the question about provision of cars to supervisory council members. Now I'd like to ask Lauris Macijevskis to continue the presentation.
Thank you, Janis. Lauris Macijevskis here. I'm pleased again to run through this presentation. I would like to point out that we had very strong quarter. If we are looking on our top line and bottom line results, I believe that the results are quite good. And of course, we are already working with very good cash flow results if we are looking on our positions. Despite that, we already have made substantial investments. Our investments in we have finalized our investment activities in fixed assets in certain investment projects, as well as we have started already our investments into improvement of our files, which we have previously presented and set as one of our priorities going further. Nevertheless, I'm currently here. I would like to update you on certain significant facts or factors which we are currently working on. And I would like to start with the information regarding the investigation regarding marketing expenses. As we already have publicly announced, there is certain large scale and possibly fraudulent activities which are suspected regarding the marketing, and is related with one particular supplier of marketing services. Of course, this is taking into consideration that already our external auditors has pointed out our structure of marketing costs of Olainfarm for previous 2 years, and that's why the management starting from April has taken additional and detailed look on this issue and this question in particular. Taking into account that in substance the volume of the transaction, we have acquired also independent auditing company which was auditing the specific topic and specific question regarding the marketing expenses. And we are seeing that the results of this investigation, of course, is not allowing to continue us the respective services, and that's why we have suspended those activities, and we are not going into any additional marketing activities with the respective company. However, I need to point out that there is certain criminal proceedings which unfortunately are initiated by the state police, and this actually is not allowing me to give any additional details, not to harm any proceedings on this investigation.
Now let's continue with another news. Supervisory Council has decided to launch a hiring process for a new CEO. A recruitment company, Amrop, is assisting us in this process, which is scheduled to be completed by the end of October. And current chairman, Mr. Lauris Macijevskis, will continue to perform duties as a member of the management board afterwards. At this stage, we cannot, excuse me.
Yes, I would like to add, thank you, Janis. I would like to add that the process regarding the new chairman of the management board was started already in the May. We had an investor roadshow during the May. We already have informed, at least partially, of you regarding the certain process. I would like to comment that we have added external service company in order to run through this process, taking into account the specifics and the complexity of the process, taking into account also the specifics of Olainfarm as a company. And yes, I have been also through this process, and I have seen the respective activities of recruitment company, and also we are quite confident that there are certain candidates which might run this company further from the very in knowledge and detailed experience regarding pharmaceuticals as such.
And on the 1st of November, we'll have the 4th general meeting this year. A key shareholder of Olainfarm requested such meeting with 2 topics on agenda: Supervisory Council elections and Auditing Committee election. No candidates have been present as of today. So thank you very much. With this, we end the second part of today's webinar, and now we can continue with the Q&A session.
Gentlemen, thank you for the presentation. So let's proceed with the questions in the order they were received. The first one: Latvian advertisement portal ss.com displays information about Olainfarm selling very many recently bought luxury cars. What is the reason for that?
Yes, as Janis briefly explained, we are currently selling specific cars. We have internally agreed that this needs to be as clear and transparent process as possible. That's why we have published this in public sources. And if anyone who would like to purchase those cars, it's actually allowed to contact the company and actually to bid for the cars. And of course, I need to mention that such type of luxury cars currently is not necessary for companies' main activities. I need to remind that currently we have over 150 vehicles here locally and 150 vehicles abroad. So basically, we are selling only few of them, which is not related to our core activities.
Thank you. According to the latest publicly available information, in a short period of time, managers of several Olainfarm daughter companies were changed, even though the achieved financial results were good. How would you comment the situation?
Thank you for the question. I need to remind that in our previous presentation, we have set the targets to look into the activities of our daughter companies in order to their financial performance and also on how they are adding value to the total holding. If I'm looking on the specific issue, then I need to comment that currently we are supporting all our daughter companies and are planning to support our daughter companies. And of course, our top management is involved in all necessary activities in order to provide knowledge and additional support if needed.
Thank you. How would you describe the governance practices in relation to Olainfarm daughter companies in the context of the recently published Olainmed employee public letter?
Yes, I believe I already have answered the specific question. Nevertheless, we of course need to focus on entire activities of the holding.
Are there any plans to sell Olainfarm's medical branch assets in nearest time, if there is anything that you would like to add?
No, I do not want to add anything. We are not planning to sell any companies.
Thank you. In the end of June, according to the report, there were about 10 million euro cash on your accounts. How much is it now?
Unfortunately, this is, of course, confidential information. I would like to ask you to wait for 9 months results. Then, of course, you will see the specific figures.
Some of the recent highly paid employment engagements with Olainfarm including a new finance director, internal auditor, and a rather costly consultant imposed on a daughter company. All three, just like you, are former employees of DNB. On top of that, there are several publicly available reports of other friends and even family members employed on rather important positions in Olainfarm Group, including Ms. Blutje and her son. Among other things, this has resulted in administrative costs increasing by almost 1 million euros over a single quarter. Such choices were made because you genuinely believe that the best talent is available among friends and relatives, because of gross negligence in selection process, or for some other reason.
I already have explained in my previous public statements that we are focusing on professional capacities of any employee we are currently having as a part of our team, and we need to remember that we are working in specifically small market. That's most probably the reason why this is mentioned. Nevertheless, we are pretty sure regarding the professional levels of certain people.
Thank you. Flat sales seriously threatened in future, board stripped of industry competence, poor liquidity management, several reports of mobbing, skyrocketing administrative costs, and after recent events in SIA Olainfarm, and unsurprisingly, it is extremely likely that your team has a support of not much more than 25% of shareholders. In similar situations, a decent governance team would seriously consider stepping down. Have you ever considered it?
I would basically remind the results of the first poll question that actually we are currently working with extremely good financial results. Of course, there are some certain things we are planning to change and we will change. And of course, there are certain people who are not satisfied with those changes. Nevertheless, we need to remember that we are working on behalf of all investors, and that's our main target. If we are looking on specific question, then I would like to point out our liquidity position, which is actually the best ever. Thank you.
How would you comment on the results of the first quarter of this year compared to the second quarter, where there is a major deterioration in both revenue and profits and EBITDA positions?
Thank you for the question. I need to remind that we have certain and quite long production cycle, and basically quarter-on-quarter analysis is just a very small part of entire value chain if we are looking on the results. However, efficiency of increase of production is related basically to those activities which are already made, and previously we had question regarding the sustainability of those changes, and we are currently seeing that those improvements are taking place also on the second quarter. However, I need also to remind that we are largely affected by the Russian ruble, where the main effects actually pointed out on the first quarter, and on the second quarter we have very minor effects from the Russian ruble. So this is mainly the changes.
Thank you. According to the information provided, inadequately large financial resources are held in the company's accounts, reaching 10 million euro. The 6-month report shows that while commitments to suppliers have increased by around 1.5 million euro during the year, and despite the available financial means in the company's account, fulfillment of these commitments is deliberately delayed. What is the explanation for this situation? Why have the commitments to suppliers been increased so drastically?
Let's start with the first part of the question. I need to remind that previously we had quite low figures of our liquidity in the company. Currently, we are focusing on improvement of our cash flow, which is mainly the result of quite substantial increase in total cash. Nevertheless, we need to remember that there are substantial investments planned, and we are also plan to utilize not only banks' borrowings but also our internal resources to go further with those investments. If I'm looking on the amount of investments, then we need to remember that also our turnover has increased, and total amount of sales suppliers which we are comparing quarter per quarter and year per year basically has minor increase. Nevertheless, in order to in detail explain that, we also need to remember that if we are increasing our investment activities, there is an increase in suppliers which has issued actually the receipts, but we are paying in next period.
Can you comment on the public information about the many cases of mobbing in several of Olainfarm's subsidiaries? Will there be an investigation, and will the individuals responsible for mobbing be brought to justice?
I believe that we all understand that there are certain dislike of the changes we are currently running, and I do not want to comment on any public announcements which are made by any of the persons, so this is not correct from my side to comment on that.
While respecting the wishes of the majority of shareholders, has the board considered calling shareholders' meeting earlier than the last day the law permits, and has the council considered resigning because of obvious lack of support from shareholders? If not, why not? On what grounds?
We have announced the specific call for extraordinary shareholder meetings on all necessary terms and conditions and in respect of the law. So this is only my comment on that.
Administration costs increased by €1 million over the past 3 months. The management report seeks to explain this with increased non-capitalizable research costs, although clinical studies are clearly delayed according to sources. This raises the suspicion that a substantial part of this commitment is actually spent on group leadership pay. In view of the drop in volumes or rates in nearly all major financial reporting positions, does the company management consider that such a substantial increase in costs over 1 quarter is justified and consistent with good corporate governance practices?
Let me allow you to remind on the specific slide we have put it on regarding the remuneration of the company's council and management board, which we actually see an increase on that. If we are specifically looking on the reasons increasing administrative costs, then the main part of this increase basically came from the bonuses which were paid to all employees of Olainfarm. And if we are looking on the specific amounts, this is actually the majority of this particular amount.
Has the management calculated what would be the dynamics of second quarter profits and turnover if the effects of currency fluctuations and provisions were offset in the second quarters of 2018 and 19? How much additional profit the company generated thanks to the fact that in second quarter 2018 the value of the Russian ruble was around 76-77 rubles per €1, while in second quarter this year it fluctuated around 72-73 rubles per €1.
We are seeing that the majority of currency effect actually was in Q1, not in Q2. So currently the influence of the net profit is insignificant.
What about September this year, which is the beginning of the pharmaceutical season? How will the promotion of Olainfarm products in Russia and Kazakhstan will be ensured? It is no secret that these countries make up more than 1/3 of the company's export markets.
We have just finalized August as the month, and I would like all investors to take a look on the August results, which will be published again in the mid of September. This will largely answer the specific question which is currently written here.
Olainfarm has shared news about the plan to attract a new chairman of the management board. However, considering the main shareholder's request to convoke a shareholders meeting, do you think the wish to hire a new CEO before the upcoming shareholders meeting is adequate and does not have some other hidden interests?
As already have explained, the process of hiring a new CEO already was started in May. So we need to all to understand that the process for finding appropriate person of such caliber is actually taking time, and the announcement of specific extraordinary shareholder meeting, of course, is not affecting the certain process.
Where and how is it possible to find the international auditor's opinion about marketing agreements, which was mentioned in the media without providing any further facts?
As already have explained, we cannot provide any facts due to the interests of the criminal proceedings and investigations, and of course, such type of information is classified.
Selling and raw material costs have declined compared to 2018. Are those trends sustainable or include one-off or short-term issues?
Yes, I already have touched this topic, but raw material decreases in raw material costs actually is the result of actions to increase the efficiency. This is not a one-off or short-term topic. However, of course, we need to understand that there are certain activities we need to continue in order to keep such numbers, and of course we are also dependent on global price levels of certain raw materials.
In your release regarding fraudulent use of assets, you state that suspicious transactions took place until April 4th, 2019. What exactly happened on April 4th that allows you to state that?
We have started certain investigation regarding those fraudulent activities, and exactly since that period of time, this have been under our main direct focus.
How IFRS 16 has impacted EBITDA year to date?
I need to say that the increase in EBITDA has resulted in around 5% out of the IFRS 16 effect, so roughly 1 million euros.
If, as you said, the forex difference between second quarter 2018 and second quarter 2019 is close to 2 million, then normalized profit is actually declining. Am I correct?
There are also certain additional factors which are influencing net profit. I already have disclosed that the currency effects are rather minor in the second quarter.
What is the total amount of allegedly fictitious transactions with the marketing company? Perhaps,
Could you repeat the
yeah,
question, please?
sure. What is the total amount of allegedly fictitious transactions with the marketing company that you referred to previously, I assume?
Yes, but nevertheless, I already once again need to clarify that those are the facts we cannot disclose at this point of time. When such facts will be available for public disclosure, we will come into the public announcement.
Are there any employees of Ukrainian ZAO Zdarovye among the shortlisted CEO candidates?
According to my knowledge, not.
Do you plan to cooperate with some other marketing company in the CIS countries? Who are potential candidates?
We are certainly looking for different options and probabilities how we can organize marketing activities further. However, this is actually our internal decision, and of course we cannot disclose such commercial decisions.
When will be the auditor report about the marketing agreements available?
The auditor report is already available and submitted to certain institutions which are actually running the investigation.
Does it make sense to elect a new CEO, considering that the council may potentially change in November? This question I believe you answered, so unless there's anything you'd like to add.
No.
Okay, then let's proceed. What does working in a small market have to do with employing family members in the company?
I once again would like to point out that we need to look on the professional level of any employee in our holding. This question was already asked already. Thank you.
After suspension of the marketing company, can you please clarify what actions are being taken to ensure continuation of marketing activities in Russia and Ukraine?
Again, this is the internal information which I cannot disclose at this point of time.
Could you please comment what impact suspension of marketing activities in these key markets would have on Olainfarm sales? Sure, I'll repeat. So could you please comment the impact of suspension of marketing activities in these key markets that would have been on the Olainfarm shares?
Sales, if I understand correctly. We are seeing that we are selling substantial amounts in Russia, and as I told, we need to take a focus on 7 months results when our sales volumes in Russia has increased, and also would like to point out that we need a little bit to wait to publish August results, so then you will have more factual answer to this question. If we are looking on the Ukrainian market, then of course Ukrainian market is of course a little bit different. We are very cautious in the respective markets. So basically, this is the market where we are looking substantially on our volumes and how we would like to distribute our volumes.
Who is the main expert in the marketing agreement issues?
Sorry, I do not understand the question.
The next question in line, are you going to investigate the mobbing claims? This was probably answered already, so we can proceed. What was the reason to change the financing director if results are good?
We need to remember that previous financial director stepped down from the certain positions, and secondly, we are currently focusing on different qualities and experience how we would like to see the financial setting for the entire holding to be.
And currently the last question in line, is it realistic the company will not hit its annual net profit target?
I would like to finalize this most probably with of course we are looking on the specific targets. Nevertheless, as already we have described this previously, this is still quite challenging to continue on such pace, and we are seeing that of course there are a lot of activities which are making good effects on our net profit. Nevertheless, currently we are not adding any projections on the future regarding net profit, but of course we are very close to reach this target. If we will see necessity or for the specific change, of course we will inform the market regarding that.
Thank you. All questions are answered. As always, the recording of the webinar will be available soon in Nasdaq Baltic YouTube channel and also published as a separate company's announcement. Gentlemen, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the answers given. Participants, thank you for joining. See you in the next webinar.